Colourless and artifact spells are the topic of the day, and let's see which cards I've made into my Pauper cube. Hello and welcome to Life Begins at 20. My name is Mark and thank you so much for joining me. Now, if you've been following along this budget cube build along series, it's now time to actually get into seeing which cards I've put into the cube. What I will mention to start off with is that I've upped the cube size to 450 cards rather than the 405, but that's just going to be going through testing, and then hopefully during that point in time I can see which cards are performing, which ones are not, and then slowly whittle it down to 405. But at this moment in time, with Masters 25 coming out as well, during the point in time where I was building this, I actually wanted to put in 10 cards from there and a few other bits and pieces as well, just to kind of see how the cube was going, and then we can look at bringing that size down. But for now it's 450 cards, and there'll be a link in the description below as well for the cube tutor link to see that cube as a whole list. If you want to just copy it, feel free to. If you want to make your own changes and suggestions, again, let me know in the comment section below. If you see some cards in there you think, oh, why have you got that in there? I can think of a better one. Great, let me know in the comment section as well below, because to be perfectly honest, I don't know every card in Magic. I'm not going to say I do, because that would be mental. But if there are cards that I've missed that would make a huge improvement over what I've got, again, let me know in the comments section below. You'll know what all of the art types are as well from previous videos that I've put together. I will link the playlist on the screen now for you. There'll be a card on the screen so you can take a look and see what's going on there, so you can know what all the different art types I'm going to be supporting are in this cube. But for now, let's get stuck in and see which cards I've put in. So starting off with the artifacts, I thought I'd get these out of the way with, and that is the signets. Now, to be perfectly honest, I am more than happy running these within the Pauper cube. Yes, they are really strong cards and they're able to ramp and get a bit more fixing, but for me, I've only got 2 sets of the different dual lands, so having these available to be able to splash into a different colour is for me more than happy to do that. Yes, the ramp is, again, additional help for things, bits and pieces like that as well, but there is a lot of removal within the cube, so it's not necessarily the biggest problem in the world for someone to be able to get this, and hopefully in a draft, these won't appear that often as well, but they are really strong cards to have, and to be perfectly honest, I'm more than happy running them in Pauper cube. I don't think they're quite as destructive as they are within the higher power levels. Next up, we've got Wayfarer's Bauble. So for 1, it's an artifact where you pay 2 and sacrifice it to search your library for a basic land card. Put that card onto the battlefield tapped and then shuffle your library. So you've got yourself there a little bit of ramp for later on in the game. Next up, we've got Mindstone. Managed to open this nice little foil in an Iconis Masters pack. So for 2 mana, it's an artifact ramp target there. Tap it to add a colourless mana to your mana pool, and if you don't need to have the ramp anymore, pay 1, sacrifice it to draw a card. I really do like that. Next up, we've got Prophetic Prism. So for 2 mana, again, it's an artifact. When it enters the battlefield, you get to draw a card. You pay 1 and tap it to have 1 mana of any colour to your mana pool. So a nice way to get a bit of fixing there and card draw. Next up, we've got Guardian Idol. So something a little bit different here. You can have, for 2 mana, it's mana ramp again, but it comes in tapped. So you can get tapping it for 1 mana to your mana pool, or you can pay 2 and it becomes a 2/2 artifact creature token to the end of turn. So if you don't need the mana ramp and you want to swing in with the extra body, go for it. Next up, we've got Sphere of Suns. So for 2 mana, enter the battlefield tapped and with 3 charge counters on it. You can remove a charge counter from it to add 1 mana of any colour to your mana pool. So again, nice bit of fixing there. Next up, Star Compass. Again, enters the battlefield tapped for 2 mana, and you can then tap it to add 1 mana of any colour to your mana pool that a basic land you control could produce. So it's not the best fixing in the world, but if you've got 2 of those, the only mana that you're going to need, it's going to be able to do some decent enough work. Next up, you've got Pristine Talisman. So for 3 mana, it's an artifact that you can tap to give 1 mana to your mana pool, and you gain a life as well. And last of all, we've got Serrated Arrows. So for 4 mana, enter the battlefield with 3 arrowhead counters on it. At the beginning of your upkeep, if there are no arrowhead counters on it, you then sacrifice it, but you can then tap it to remove an arrowhead counter from Serrated Arrows and put a -1/-1 counter on target creature, potentially removing something or making something bigger smaller, and you can just keep doing that over the course of the time until the arrowheads come out, but you could always bring this back to your hand, put it back onto the battlefield and keep doing that. So moving on now into the equipment, and there's a few to go through. So to start off, we've got adventuring gear. So for 1 mana with an equip cost of 1, it's got landfall. So whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, equipped creature gets +2/+2 to the end of turn. And to be perfectly honest, that's pretty decent. I mean, there's plenty of ways, especially if you're going to put this into, say, a green deck, to be able to make sure that you're going to be hitting those landfall triggers that regularly. Next up, we've got, well, probably one of the best one-drop equipment in the entirety of Pauper Cube, and that is Bone Splitter. So 1 cost with a quick cost of 1, a quick creature gets +2/+0, and great for addressing aggressive decks, great for decks which are going to be able to utilise the equipment more, and Fencing Ace has got a new best friend. Next up, we've got Flare Husk. So for 1 mana, it's a living weapon now. So it gets a quick creature gets +1/+1. So it comes in as a 1/1 on this 0/0 gem creature token, and you can then pay 2 mana to equip it to another one of your creatures. So you can be swinging in with it, kill off the gem token, and then equip it to something else. Next, we've got Honed Kapesh. So this is come from the Amonkhet block. 1 cost, equipped creature gets +1/+1 at the quick cost of 1. So it's not quite as aggressive as Bone Splitter, but again, the +1 toughness as well is actually potentially a bit of a benefit. Next up, we've got Leonin Bowler. So we've got for 1 cost, and again, a quick cost of 1. Equipped creature has tap it, unattach it, the bowler from it, and you get to tap target creature. So you could potentially, if you've got enough mana, keep swapping this around to different tokens, tapping down a load of your opponents to be able to swing in for the win there. Next up, we've got Sylvic Lifestaff. So for 1 mana and an equipped cost of 1, equipped creature gets +1/+0, and whenever equipped creature is put into a graveyard, you gain 3 life. So this is going to be quite fun to, if you've got, again, for plenty of mana, you can then put this onto one of your creatures that you're going to be happy sacrificing. Sacrifice the creature, get 3 life, get the additional benefits from that sacrifice, and then keep going along with that. Next up, we've got Viridian Longbow, and this is something I really, really do like. So for 1 mana with an equipped cost of 3 this time, equipped creature has tap this to deal 1 damage to target creature or player. If your creature has Death Touch, that is going to end up being perfect pieces of removal there, and there are plenty of Death Touch creatures in the cube. Next up, we've got Bladed Pinions. So for 2 and a equipped cost of 2, equipped creature has Flying and First Strike, which again is pretty solid, and especially if you can then combine that with other pieces of equipment and auras, is going to do some significant work. And last of all, we've got Whisper Silk Cloak. So for 3 mana with an equipped cost of 2, equipped creature can't be blocked and has Shroud. So that's going to do some pretty nasty work against your opponents. And to be perfectly honest, there are ways of getting around this. So you could potentially end up making your opponent sacrifice a creature, and if that's, as long as the spells don't have target, you're going to be okay. So there is ways around this, but this is a pretty strong card. So moving on now into the vehicles, and we've got just a couple of them. We've got Renegade Freighter, which again we've managed to get in a nice foil there. So that's a 4/3 for 3 with a crew cost of 2, and whenever it attacks, it gets +1/+1 and trample to the end of turn, and that's pretty solid. So it's going to be a 5/4 trample creature attacking pretty much every turn, and you're only going to need to have 2 power on a creature to be able to crew that, so that's nice, and it's a decent enough blocker as well. Whereas Mobile Garrison there, for 3 cost, is a 3/4, and it's again with crew 2, and whenever it attacks, untap another target artifact or creature you control. So that can be potentially quite nice to be able to either get some more RAM, to be able to swing in with. If you're swinging in, you can then untap it to make it have pseudo vigilance or anything along those lines. It's actually going to be pretty solid, and those are the 2 vehicles that we've got going on, and I did actually quite like the vehicles mechanics. Some of them were awful, but some of them were actually pretty decent, and then the higher power levels you go, there are some absolutely disgusting ones as well. So moving on into the colourless creatures, and you're going to be seeing a lot of cards where you're going to be like, well, why have you classed this as a colourless? Well, for me, the Phyrexian mana can be paid by 2 life, and more often than not, I'd be more than happy to be paying the 2 life for some of these as well, so that's why they're in here. So starting off with, we've got Vault Scourge. So for 1 and 2 life, you've got yourself a 1/1 flying lifelink, so you're going to be able to get the life back from that anyway. A 1/1 flyer with lifelink is actually pretty nice to have earlier on. If you can then end up giving it enchantments or equipment, it's going to do some nice work for you. Next up, we've got Perilous Myr. So for 2 mana, it's a 1/1. When it's put into the graveyard from the battlefield, it does 2 damage to target creature or player. So you're going to be happy swinging in or blocking with this, and it potentially kills off something bigger than itself, or it's going to be doing 2 damage straight to the dome. Next up, we've got Porcelain Legionnaire. So for 2 and one of those nice Phyrexian mana, you can get yourself a 3/1 First Strike creature, and that is is nice and strong. So for 2 and 2 life, I don't have an issue paying that, or it's 2 and a white, but for more likely it's going to be 2 and 2 life, and anybody can end up using them. Next up, again, we've got ourselves another one of those Phyrexian mana. So for 2 and a 2 life, or 2 and a blue, you've got yourself a 2/1 flyer. Again, decent enough for 2 mana and 2 life for a 2/1 flyer. That's an artifact creature as well. May end up being useful if I end up supporting artifacts more later on in the time, but for now, a 2/1 flyer for 2 and 2 life is not the end of the world. Next up, we've got Cathodian. So for 3 mana, it's a 3/3, and when it dies, add 3 mana to your mana pool. So that's quite nice, because you'll be happy swinging in with this, and your opponent's got to choose whether to block it and give you 3 mana, which could potentially ramp you up nicely, or it's going to be taking the damage. Next up, we've got the Gathan Raiders, and for me, this is a morph creature. I don't ever expect to be paying 3 and 2 red for it, so don't worry about that for morph. So you're paying 3 mana to make it down as a 2/2. To morph it, you can then discard a card, which could then produce a madness trigger, depending on if there's a few of them, but not too many, but they are available to there, or you can end up filling up your graveyard. And when it become face up that way, and it's got Hellbent, so it gets +2/+2 if you have no cards in hand. So if you can end up discarding the last card you've got, and it becomes a 5/5 for basically 3 mana and a discarded card, and to be perfectly honest, that may not be the worst price in the world. Next up, we've got Cogwork Librarian, and this one is in here purely for drafting, just to make it a little bit more fun. So for 4 mana, it's a 3/3, and you draft it face up. As you draft a card, you may draft an additional card from that booster pack. If you do, you put Cogwork Librarian back into that pack. So this is really nice to have. You can pick it out, and then say, for example, you open up a pack that's got some great stuff in there. Well, you can take 2 things, put this back in, happy days. Next up, we've got Pith Driller. So for 4 and one of those nice Phyrexian mana, you've got a 2/4, and when it enters the battlefield, put a -1/-1 counter on target creature. So potentially, again, you could be killing off one of your opponent's creatures there, or you can end up reducing the size of something as well. Next, we've got Thundering Tanadon. So for 4 and 2 of those Phyrexian mana now, or 2 green, you've got a 5/4 trample creature. So for 4 and 4 life for 5/4 trample, again, not necessarily the worst thing in the world, especially if you've got ways of making it even better. Next up, we've got Kozilek's Channeler. So for 5, it's a 4/4, but you can then tap it to add 2 mana to your mana pool. So this is, again, a nice ramp creature on something that's actually pretty big enough to do some work for you as well. And it just means that, again, in green, you can use this to be able to get yourself up to these 2 big boys here. So we start off with, we've got Ulamog's Crusher there, 8/8 for 8 with Annihilator 2. So whenever this creature attacks, defending player sacrifices 2 permanents, and it has to attack every turn if able. Or on the other side, we've got Eldrazi Devastator, which is an 8/9 for 8 with Trample. So, like I said, green's more than likely to be able to get up here, but there are ways to be able to ramp up to be able to get to these. Or you can cheat them out, put them into the graveyard, get them back that way if needs be, and it's going to do some significant damage. And last of all, we've got the colourless spells, and there may be a couple in here, a couple I need to potentially add. Apostle's Blessing's one that I'm tempted to put in, but for now we've got these ones only. So starting off with Gutshot, so it's either going to be 2 life or a red, more than likely going to be the 2 life, as that's why I've put it in here. Deals 1 damage to target creature or player, so it can potentially kill off something if needs be at instant speed. Next up, Mutagenic Growth. So again, it can either be 2 life or a green. Target creature gets +2/+2 to the end of turn. This card would work so nicely with, say, Nivik Cyclops or something along those lines to really pump it up, really push it over the edge again with Kiln Fiend as well. So that's in there for something like that. But again, it's going to be able to pump up a lot of other creatures as well. And last of all, we've got Gitaxian Probe as sorcery speed here. So for either a blue mana or 2 life, look at target player's hand and draw a card. I have no problem with paying 2 life to be able to do that. So there we have all of the colourless and artifact cards that I have in the cube. And as you can tell, Phyrexian mana is something that I'm utilising quite a lot of in this cube, and I'm definitely putting that down as colourless. Well, and other people may end up putting it down as not colourless, but for me, I thought everybody could use it, so I didn't think it'd be fair to put it into individual colours. That's why I've done it in this specific way, and there are definitely some great options in there. Signets are hit or miss depending on the type of person that you're trying to, the type of cube you're trying to put together, and the player would do, the cube builder decides, well, is it or is it not too powerful? For me, I think I've got the cube at a point in time where it's actually quite powerful for Pauper. So that's why I'm more than happy to put those signets in there, and I don't think they're necessarily game breaking at this level, but testing will again see whether I'm right or wrong in that scenario. And I haven't got as much fixing in as I would have in higher, my higher power cube. When I had one, I had a lot more mana fixing in there for the size of the cube, because I wanted to make sure that multicolours and two colours were actually more achievable, whereas here we've only got a couple of options for lands and these signets, so it shouldn't be as easy to splash, or it shouldn't be quite as effective. That's the way I wanted to come across for that anyway. But again, do let me know in the comment section below whether there's anything that I've missed out. Are there any better vehicles that need to be put in there? Have we got any other artifacts for splashing for some extra mana, or anything along those lines I haven't got in there? Any better equipment that I've missed out? Again, do let me know. And any of those colourless spells as well. There may well be something better out there, but this is where I've got to at this moment in time. But again, let me know in the comment section below, because I'm really enjoying my interactions down there and seeing all the different cards that you're coming up with, because I just don't know everything. I don't know all the cards that are out there. So thank you so much, and keep doing that for me, because that'd be fantastic. I would just like to take this moment to thank my Patreons of the channel. I can't thank you enough for the help and support that you're giving me. If you'd like to do the same, head over to patreon.com/lifebegins@20, and there'll be a link in the description below for that as well, where there are plenty of rewards to choose from. With your support, we can really push to make this channel even better. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like button, and if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button for new videos every Tuesday and Friday. With your support, we can really help this channel to grow. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.